Hi, Sai and Sai here for Music Radar. Today's special guest on the table today is Akai's brand new MPC Live III.
We're going to do a kind of first look thing on here for this because we've only got our hands on it recently.
Yeah.
I'm going to write up a full review which will be linked to underneath this video.
Yes.
But it's fair to say there is a lot going on with this.
So much.
And we haven't got time to dig into everything. So I'm going to pick a few highlights, a few of my favourite things about this new thing.
And a
couple of things
low lights.
Yeah, a couple of lowlights, and also just generally talk about the main things you need to know about this.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
All right, so let's give you a bit of context around this before we dive in.
Okay.
So the MPC is obviously a instrument with a lot of history. First designed by Roger Lynn and released in the late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Developed through the late 80s and 90s. Originally as a kind of hardware sampler, pad-based, known particularly for the fact that it could be kind of like played sort of finger drumming style, for this kind of classic crunchy sampling sound and things like this sort of built-in swing that gave a real groove.
Yeah.
Massively popular with hip-hop producers, massively popular with like 90s dance producers, samplers, things like that. Blah, blah, blah. We all know about MPCs.
Exactly.
In the noughties, Akai kind of changed tack to create a run of MPCs that were a bit like Native Instruments Machine, that they were controllers that worked with software that had to be run on a desktop computer. And then about a decade ago, they came back to the standalone hardware, originally with the first generation MPC Live, and then the MPC X, which is the kind of the topper end, and then more lately the MPC One, which is the slightly cheaper version. But basically what that means is that these latest generation of MPCs are going back to things that you don't need to plug into a computer. You don't even, with the MPC Live, it's got a built-in battery, and so you don't even actually need to plug it into the power. Obviously I've got it plugged in here because we're filming a video and we're not going to risk it. But as you can see, I've just unplugged it and it's still running fine. But I will put that back in so we don't start getting tense.
No.
I'm pretty sure the battery's charged up. It's fine anyway, but we're not going to risk it. But crucially, everything you can do is within one box. Now, unlike those original MPCs, it's not necessarily just a standalone instrument. Effectively, these latest MPCs are pretty much DAWs in a box where it's almost like having a laptop that is specifically built around music production.
You can create a whole track. This is start to finish stuff.
Yeah, and it's not just, we're not just talking a sampler thing. We're talking a whole, suite of plugins, audio, all these things you can do. And you can still plug them into a computer. Like all of these MPCs come with Akai's MPC software for desktop, so you can plug them in, use them as controllers. But all brings me on to the fact that the main point about this MPC Live III, and I think the thing that Akai won't necessarily allude to in their own like marketing things, but the thing reading between the lines a little bit is this MPC is the most that we've seen Akai kind of just completely disregard that software side. So this is the most standalone version of this we've seen, which is a really good thing. So for a long time, since they kind of brought out these new standalone versions, that software side, well, I'd never kind of say the MPC software on desktop is bad. It's clearly the weakest part of the whole setup. In terms of like, it's effectively a DAW that you can use on your desktop, but it's, compare it to something like Ableton Live or like FL Studio or something like that, which are proper DAWs with like years and years of development and big user bases, and it just isn't quite as slick and quite as smooth. And that kind of carried over. If you remember rightly, when we reviewed the last few MPC Lives, I've said I've always really liked them and really enjoyed them, but the weakest elements of that is the kind of software workflow, which can be a bit convoluted. And Akai has done a lot to address that and sort that out with this latest MPC Live. So this is the main thing I think we need to know about this, is the most standalone and most self-contained MPC that we have seen
in
a long time.
Complete.
And it is really good specifically for that.
All right. Well, on that note, I think it's a good time to dive into your highlights.
Yep.
Let's start from the top. Number one. What would be number one highlight?
So number one, and a big reason why this is now much more powerful as a standalone thing, is that the processing power and the storage, like everything going on under the hood, has been massively improved.
Yeah.
And so I think users of the previous MPC Live, although it's kind of proved popular, it's a really good device, I think were the main criticisms, particularly as technology has moved on a bit, has been it kind of lacked a bit of the processing power.
Not enough grunt under the hood.
Particularly since, a little while ago, Akai launched stem separation, which obviously is coming to everything. It's in Live, Logic, FL Studio, all the DJ software these days. Yeah. So it's a common tool. It was added to MPCs a little while ago, but the version that has been running on previous MPCs was kind of a sort of optimized, streamlined version, which is decent, but
it's not the full version.
You could tell basically that you're using something that involves a lot of power, but with it on a device that isn't necessarily that powerful.
So this now can handle.
Yeah. So what we've got under the hood is we've got an 8-core processor under there with 8 gigabytes of RAM.
Right.
And also the storage has been massively improved. So the MPC Live II, I think, as standard had, off the top of my head, I think it was like 16 gigabytes of storage, which was expandable, but obviously is not masses.
No.
Whereas you've now got 128 gig.
Oh wow. Okay.
And we've still got obviously the SD card port back, so we can expand it.
We can expand it
easily using
that's
that.
That's a huge jump in all the
it's a huge jump, and for something like this, which is so focused on like recording and sampling and things like that, it really does make a difference.
Yeah, sure.
And so I think Akai quoting it as being this kind of overall 4 times as powerful as the previous generation. So it does mean you can do a lot more. So the polyphony has ramped up from 64 voices, like a maximum of 64 voices together, to 256. So that's a big improvement.
Yeah, that's huge.
You can now use considerably more kind of audio tracks and plug-in tracks and things like that.
Yeah.
Which means that, you can do much more just from the standalone device, to a point that I think most users will probably look to be doing everything within this box and kind of not really kind of engage with the desktop version at all. Yeah. And I think that is a big win here. So like another thing that has been added here that means it kind of you can get things in and out of other DAWs or kind of other software platforms quite easy, is that you've got this new USB-C port on the back, which can do a couple of things, but one of the main things it can do is you can stream audio directly over USB-C. You can do 32 channels of inputs or outputs, which gives you a really easy way to like pretty much say you built the best part of a full track in here and you want to put it into something like Logic or Live or Pro Tools or whatever. Yeah, you can stream directly, as well as doing all the other things like exporting stems, exporting full kind of projects, etc., etc. Okay. So it gives you that added flexibility. So that is my first big highlight of this is just how much more you can do from the standalone device itself. And so there is a little bit more to that in that there is a few extra connectivity things going on. Okay.
Are we bleeding into number 2 here?
I can't decide whether this is number 2. Let's call this number 2. Okay? Yeah, this is number 2, which is the upgrades to the hardware itself. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we've talked about what's under the hood. Let's talk about what is on.
Let's talk about the hood. Box. Yep.
So we've got, as I touched on, the new USB-C port, as well as streaming audio to a DAW or whatever. We can use that as a sampling input, kind of like on something like Ableton Move or kind of, you can kind of sample through USB-C. So it gives you a simple way to hook up to certain sort of smartphone devices or laptops and things like that for sampling, which like it's great. Another way you can sample here. So we've got the addition of this microphone. So the MPC Live with version 2 already added this speaker. Yes. Which I will mention, it's not new, but it is worth highlighting because actually I'm still really impressed with how good these speakers are. So like most of the time when you get like gear with a built-in speaker, it's something...
Well, it's trash normally.
Yeah, like it's kind of something weak and something that you think, I'm just going to use headphones or whatever.
This sounds good.
Actually, you get a lot of volume and a lot of bass out of that, and I've been doing a lot of playing around with just using that, and it's really good. I mean, you now got a mic right in the middle of it. Just give us an extra sampling input. It's not like kind of quality-wise, obviously, it's not going to replace your £1,000 ribbon microphone, but it is a nice, quick way to sample like percussion or just things around you. You speak into it, blah, de, blah, de, blah. Just an additional option, which is great. You've also, the inputs on the back here have been upgraded to combi inputs here, so makes it easier to hook up a mic.
Yeah, I love that. It's got to be on everything.
As well, you've still got obviously the phono input, so you can hook up a turntable, things like that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of options and real flexibility. Again, still got the CV, which isn't new, but it's a nice it's a nice thing to have on there. So there is a load of extra options. There's obviously more going on in this top panel as well, so we're going to dig into that too.
A lot busier.
Yep. So this is I'm going to call this number 3.
Okay.
Call this number 3 highlight. Is this new step sequencer, and I really, really like this as an addition. So the MPCs, you've always been able to kind of play them using the pads like this. Obviously, that kind of pad finger drawing workflow is a kind of cornerstone of the MPC design.
Yep. All part of the workflow.
And there's various ways you can use those pads, including you could always like step sequence with them in a sort of pad type way. But what this button sequencer gives us up here is a proper kind of sort of almost Roland XOX box style sequencing workflow. And actually there's a lot of flexibility to this, so we can, I've got some drums here, you can see like I've just got, you can just quite easily punch in drums like that. We can go to a note sequencing mode there, and you can sequence melodically with that. If I go into step edit, you can see, so any one of these steps, let's select this step here, step 5, and you see we've got a load of options here, so we can set up kind of, we can change the velocity for that step. I can put ratchets on, we've got probability sequencing. Yeah, which are kind of these cue links, which are kind of another classic element of the control panel, makes nice, easy, quick adjustments. Then you've got these modifiers here, so which basically gives us kind of per step automation type things and kind of fun, I guess, kind of what you would call up like parameter lock stuff on electron devices and things like that. And then you can do other things, like you can kind of set different lengths for sequences, so you can get some sort of like kind of polymetric sequences going. So it's almost kind of almost on a level of that kind of electron creativity step sequencer, which is a real bonus to have in there. And I think actually it's really nice complement to this, because it's always, the MPC, as I said, it's always been kind of focused on that kind of live playing, which is obviously there's a lot of great finger drummers and people who are kind of good at that, and I really I enjoy it for playing sort of chords and things like that, but I'm not the most kind of dexterous person when it comes to that, and I love having
the option
sequencer to balance that out, so you can do, so you've got like kind of sounds in here. It comes with a bunch of nice, for example, nice kind of vintage drum machines, and just pairing those up with that for that kind of classic house and techno workflow is an extra string to the MPC bow that's really welcome. Another new thing is this touch strip here. Again, it's a thing I really like and a really nice addition. It can do multiple things. So if I click here, you can see I'll go different modes. So notes, pitch bends, it can act like the mob wheel. Adjust kind of, you can use it as an expression tool, crossfade between things. I really like it for using these touch effects. So let me just play. So as a little example here, I've got like set up a really basic little kind of track loop, which is just a sort of kind of liquid drum and basic kind of thing that I put together earlier. I'll dive into some of these things in a second. But a quick example of just, you can use this just as these nice little touch effects, which at the moment I've got routed over the kind of main output, but we can route different things. Can hit shift here to kind of set up what's going on with that kind of touch effect setup. We can obviously kind of do a whole load of different effects.
performative stuff we expect.
Yeah, classic performative stuff, but it's just it's a really fun and nice little hands-on thing particularly for the kind of people who perform live with these, which I know it's a popular tool for live performance because there's a lot you can do with it. So, touching on that live performance thing, I'm on 4.
This will be 4 now, yes.
Number 4.
Yeah.
So the other kind of big highlight here is these pads. So these pads here, which Akai are calling these MPCE, which is obviously a kind of play on MPE.
Yes.
Which, Expressive MIDI tools currently in everything. But MP, the kind of Akai version is slightly different from what you might think of MPE. Basically, what it does is it allows us to use these pads with kind of multi-directions of kind of zones and expression across the pad. So that can work in a few different interesting ways. So one example being, what I've got set up here is, this is one of the classic drum machine kits. So this comes with the MPC Live III. It's kind of sampled drum machines, but set up for these new MPCE pads.
Got you.
So what's going on with these, which is quite an interesting, quite a nice way to do it, is basically you've got different vintage drum machines set up across these 4 zones.
4 zones on it, yeah.
So that's like kind of one nice little example of how these can be used. So basically, in that case, you've just got a load of extra samples within the pads themselves, which are kind of set up from, let's go edit, and go into my sample window, and you can basically see that the 4 layers here have got kind of different drum machine sounds, and then we can basically blend between those using the 4 elements. That is one example of what we can do. There's loads and loads of other ways they could be used here. So here's a nice little kind of respace thing, again, from those kits that come with the MPC
all the bundled stuff,
where
like
kind of the nice little respacey thing set up to modulate both sort of pitch and filter, and also that LFO as you're dragging your finger across the pads, which is really nice. Let me show you a bit about kind of how that is being set up, because obviously it's cool to play around with, but we want to see what is going on there. And so if I dive into, so this is the kind of the general edit window for all of these sort of pad instruments, and you get various variations on this depending on obviously what sort of instrument you're using, but this is kind of pretty standard workflow for the MPC. And if we go into this mod matrix here, so everything here has got really flexible, like kind of mod matrix stuff. And you can see now with these pads here, we've got these new sources where you can basically use the various different sort of expression things from the pads. So the kind of x-axis, the y-axis, the xy center. So basically, depending on whether you're pushing the center or the outsides and things, and various kind of different types of MPCE sources here.
So that's velocity as well.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And obviously you've got velocity and you've got aftertouch on these as well.
Of course.
Which of these are all again? Let's route those kind of. Actually, sorry, hold on. Yeah, so if we go into here, obviously you've got your kind of more classic MIDI expression things here, along with those pads. And we can route those to kind of all sorts of different things. So in the case of this, as you can see, basically you've got these kind of pad expressions routed to things like the pitch, the fine tuning of the sampled sounds, the depth of the LFO, the filter cutoff. And it's the combination of those that's allowing it to do all of those.
That's cool.
Cool little effects.
Yeah.
And then there are other examples. So let's go back to the main here, and I will go onto this kit here. This is another one of these where it's kind of the chords, a kit of chords, and this is another nice one because basically you've got chord progressions where you've got different chord variations in the different kind of quadrants of those pads. And like I showed you with that mod matrix, there's a lot, you can kind of set things up for yourself with these pads. They're really nicely responsive, but there's like a lot that you can do with them. What they're not is they're not necessarily traditional MPE in the way that so for example, if you used Ableton Push 3, which has got the kind of pad grid with like their version of MPE pads, on that, or on something like Rolly Seaboard, where you can kind of drift from one pad to another and kind of do those.
The whole thing's grouped up as one.
That's not how this is set up. So it is a little bit different from what you might expect with MPE, but it suits the MPC workflow, and it's a really nice example of kind of how the Expressive pads can be used.
Okay.
So let's talk about another highlight.
Okay. So number 5.
On to number 5.
Yep.
This will be my final highlight for now, but actually it's not I've not run out of things I like about this.
Okay. We could go on for a while.
We'll talk about this as the final highlight. So what we've got, which is quite cool here, is clip launching, which is a nice addition from, basically pulled over from, I don't know if you remember Akai Force.
Force, yeah.
So Force was something they released a few years ago. Yeah, so back before Ableton released Push 3 and its own standalone version of Push. Akai kind of released a standalone version of Push in Force.
Yes.
In that it looked very much like Ableton Live and was built around that whole clip launching workflow, familiar for kind of live users, and also more recently in like Logic and things like that.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And that's basically been pulled over to the MPC Live III, which is again a nice addition, particularly for people performing live.
Okay.
So if I get my little loop playing, and we can hit Shift and jump over to Matrix here, and so you see what we've got here is the kind of classic setup of the clip launching window, where this top line here is the general arrangement. So if you kind of put anything in the arranger, which is kind of part of the MPC workflow, that sits up there. And then we've got these clips here. And what I can do is, if I go to, I've got pad on, different modes for the pads here. So I've got this on clip launch here. I could do row launch, which is kind of, will launch these different rows down here. I can use this to kind of play notes like I would normally and use the clip launcher, so we can do that. One other thing which is quite nice is we can use the step sequence to launch clips as well.
Oh, great.
So I can go step and go into clip launch here.
Yeah.
And you see I am on this channel here, and we've got different. So I can use these buttons here to basically launch different iterations of this pattern. While still being able to use the pads for other things, which is pretty cool. So one thing I would like to be able to do, which you can't do with this clip launcher, is...
I'm feeling a low light coming on.
Which is a very minor thing.
Okay.
What we can do is we can kind of copy and paste clips like this. But what I would like to be able to do is basically drag and move things, which is a bit of a shame you can't do that on the touchscreen, because it means it would be a nicer way to rearrange clips like that. What is a nice touch is you can import projects from Ableton Live, which, full disclosure, I haven't actually tried yet. I've seen it in action. It looks cool. Basically, the idea that, of course, you can kind of get kind of audio loops in Live's clip launcher and bring them into here, which I think if you're someone who plays live will probably be a quite nice workflow to take things from a DAW to this. Again, I've not actually used it, so can't properly comment on that, but it seems cool. But this, again, like in Ableton Live, it gives us a nice fun way to play around with different ideas. So let's get this playing again. So for example, let me just show you how. So let's put these pads back into clip launch mode, and obviously we can now start playing around with different iterations of what we've got going on. And we can, let's take this melodic bit here, let's copy that, paste it, and show how we can just, let's pick that up again. And now in this chords, I'm going to use the MPCE pads that we were showing in it. Let's do a little variation on this pattern. So let's go. So it's quite nice. I'll overdub that. And we've quickly got that as a new thing that we can launch. that on tape stops. I thought that was going to be a filter, I'll be honest. But yeah, you can see how it gives a kind of cool, quick and easy way to play around with extra ideas. There is, like I said, there's so much going on with this that like we're kind of only lightly scratching the surface of what you can do here. Obviously, the improved stem separation, which I'm not going to demo today and haven't is worth talking about. But actually, the what I will say is that just the general workflow. Yeah. Since the last time we reviewed one of these MPC lives. Yeah. Like I said, a criticism has always been in the past that the workflow can be a little bit convoluted and a little bit messy, kind of on the software side. Mm-hmm. And actually, Akai has done quite a bit to rectify that over the years. So like, so for example, there's less separation between the different types of tracks and things like that, and it's all slightly easier to navigate. I will say that remains a slight criticism, the fact that it's easy to get lost, and that there is, but it almost in a sense that, like, you know, there's so much going on here that it would be kind of hard for it not to be a little bit convoluted at times.
Sure. I mean, so what you're saying, basically, they've done a great job to cram in way more features, but not overload the complexity of it.
Yeah, I mean, to their credit, there is more going on here than there was with the last version of the MPC Live, and it's also easier to use. Yeah, so fair play. You can't really criticise that. Yeah. In terms of things that weak points, there's really not that much so far that I don't like about this. Wow. And I've been, like I said, I need to have a bit more time to properly dive into this before we do a proper in-depth review. Yeah. But there is not that much bad that I will say. I mean, there are weak points, and it's worth talking about it in context compared to some other stuff. Yeah, yeah. So, like, the sampling is obviously, like, very much the cornerstone of the MPC workflow, and that's where it shines strongest. Like, there's all these ways to sample, there's kind of ways to control external hardware and things like that. But like the kind of sampling and that kind of loop-based audio recording is still very much the heart of what it does. While there are some very good quality synths and things within the plugins available, and also kind of expansions and things like that. That's not really where I think its strongest its strengths lie. Mm-hmm. So comparing it to something like, so the obvious comparison these days being Ableton Push 3. Yeah. What Push 3 has that over the MPC is that obviously Live itself. So if you're looking for that hybrid workflow of being able to work standalone, but also kind of slickly within a DAW, Push is better for that, because Live is just better than the MPC software, because it's been around for years, it's had years and years of development. Yeah. It's a full-on user base, it's a proper full-on door. Yeah. And so if you want that hybrid workflow, Push is better. Mm-hmm. I would say if you just want to work standalone, this is the best thing on the market at the moment. Yeah. Like, this is definitely, cool. I will
all the bells and the whistles.
Go as far as to say, like, even without diving in, that this is the best DAW in a box on the market, and the best one we've seen. Yeah, wow. Okay. So if you do want,
that's your thumbnail right there.
If you wanna just work standalone and use that, then this is definitely the best thing going. Yeah. What Push has from its links with Live is, like, it's better synths. It's probably better to play as a sort of melodic instrument. Yeah. Okay. And it almost the same kind of goes for Ableton Move, the little kind of thing, because the way those pads work and the fact that you can now sort of design drift patches and things like that, I think that works better as a sort of synth design playing device, which is probably one of the weaker points of the MPC. But for
this is your beat machine. This is the
ubiquitous for beats, for kind of sampling machine. Workflow, things like that. This is definitely the best iteration that we've seen in recent years, and there's not a lot bad I can say within its own context.
No, sure.
So let's talk about price.
Yes.
So this is launched with a RRP of £1,399, and then that is, I'm checking off screen.
Fair play.
Just making magic. $1,699. Yeah. So that's compared to, I think the launch price of the MPC Live II was what, about
just over £1,000, 1,040 or something.
So in the kind of pounds term, we're talking about £400 more. Bearing in mind,
it's more than 400 quid's worth.
Bearing in mind, the under the hood improvement and the extra hardware, I think actually that is a really reasonable price.
Yeah. And then, alone, before you start adding in all the extra functionality, you've got the step sequencer and all the other stuff.
Yeah, and then you kind of, compared to other things on the market right now, obviously you're kind of putting it in the same ballpark as some of the Electron stuff, which is a lot more. You haven't got the kind of the depth of the DAW level things. Same with the Roland TR1000, which we launched yesterday. You acted surprised. This is you being confused by the concept that I'm referencing something that we're not allowed to talk about yet, but we will be allowed to talk about when this is announced.
My brain. So that gets launched on the 1st?
That gets announced the day before this gets announced, and we're filming a video for this now.
Yeah. We haven't even seen the other one yet.
Yeah, but that's kind of that's our first look. We really like it.
Thank you very much, Si. Don't forget to do all the liking, subscribing stuff, the notifications, all that business. Hit the comments section as well. We'd like to know what you think about the door in the box that is the MPC Live Mark III.
What I'm interested to hear from people is, so I have already seen from the leaks some people saying that they think it looks a bit too cluttered.
Right.
Yeah. Obviously, that I haven't mentioned that. That's not something I think, but I'm interested to know whether you think there's too much going on or not enough, or do you think you'd use new things?
Yeah. Let's hear about it. Get in the comment section. Have a row, and and we'll see you next time for some more gear demos and some such. So until then, see you soon.